Okay, today we're going to do a color case hardening the easy way, and I just realized my camera's almost dead, so I'm going to plug it into a remote charger. I can't believe it's dead. It was 100% last night. Okay, it's still recording, so I guess we're okay. First thing I'm going to do is show you a few options you have for polishing. You saw me use some power equipment earlier in the video, but you don't need that. Makes it easier, but you don't need it. So what I'm going to do is set this gun down out of the way. We're going to be using a product called Stainless FX. See if you can see that okay. Stainless FX comes in several different sizes. And to do a whole gun, I'm going to do the barrel and the magazine tube on this 1892. It's not a high dollar gun, but I want to just go over some of the things you can use. This is Trizact abrasive. I think 3M makes it. This is 3000 grit, and it's a flannel backed deal, and I just have it stuck to a little flexible sanding block, and I bent it over the edge so I can get into weird places. And I'm just going to set that aside. There's a lot of stuff that you can have on in your tool belt that is good. I wouldn't be without 4/0 steel wool. 3/0's nice to have too, but I use 4/0 10 times more than 3/0. Depending on who you talk to, the white Scotch-Brite is the finest. I'm not convinced of that. I think the gray is the finest. I got this from an online vendor, Zoro.com, Z-O-R-O, and I'll tell you by feeling them earlier, setting up this video, that this is not as fine as this one, which is the ultra fine. So these are good things to have. You can do the whole thing by hand if you want. This is a 3000 grit. You can barely feel it. It's a 3000 grit foam sanding deal. And these are how it looks when they come in the box. There's, I think, 20 or 25, maybe 50 in a box, I'm not sure. The back is flannel. You can see there that's 800 grit. And what I do is I take a little flexible, this is a foam sanding pad with Velcro on both sides, and I just put a round disc on, then I trim off the edges, and then I pull it off and I go past the edge a little bit, as you can see there. And you can get into some really tight areas. You can even, if you want to, you can wrap it around a corner or an edge, wrap it tight, get a good crease. That label ain't helping nothing. Okay, that'll go in the blooper reel. But that's a 3000 grit foam abrasive, and you can see it sticks pretty good, and you can sand some really tight areas that way. Most of the polishing is done on this gun. We've got a few little areas. This is what the Trizact 1500 grit looks like, front and back, made by 3M. It's amazing stuff. I really like the Trizact line. In fact, on this little die grinder, right angle die grinder, it's got a 3-inch foam back. It's got a foam and Velcro pad on it, and I don't know if you can see this or not. Crap! I lay this on the bench, and then I get real close to one edge, lay it down, make sure that it's not showing pad anywhere, and it's good to go. This is another 45-degree die grinder, and it's got a roll-lock wheel on it. This is made by 3M also, and this particular one I've written on there so it's easy to see, 120 grit, and they come in many different grits. This one here, the yellow, is 80 grit. Pretty aggressive. I don't use it much when I'm doing guns or jewelry or whatever. This is pretty handy though. When it's in use, it splays out. I'll show you, it's going to get loud, but it splays out, and you can actually get edges. So watch it. And it's pretty aggressive. I think I'm running about 120 pounds of shop air right now. So that's that. Then these are also flannel backed 3-inch sanding discs, and these are pretty, they're fine, but they're still pretty aggressive. They're 320 grit, I believe. Let me check. Yep, P320. So again, I've taken the 320 and put it on one of these little foam backer pads. And one more here. This is 1000 grit. And I used to do a lot of jewelry, so I went down to polishing cloths and paper that was measured in microns, like 5-micron polishing paper, to get a real brilliant shine. And when you're doing something like this, unless it's an heirloom, you don't really need to get that carried away. In fact, you don't need 10% of all this stuff. You could really get everything done with 320 or 400 grit wet or dry, the black paper that they use in auto body. You could do everything with a couple of sheets of 320 or 400, or maybe 400 and 600 wet or dry paper by 3M. You don't need to invest a whole lot of money. But I've been screwing with this stuff for a long time, so I got like a bunch of stuff built up. But this again is 1500, very fine, comes in handy. By the way, when I'm doing a gun like this, I don't use all of those grits. I use the one that I need to get the substrate finish that I'm looking for. What I like to do is take the Scotch-Brite and cut it up into odd shapes, little triangles and strips, squares, odd shapes that I can use to get into a tight area. So I thought I'd show you that too. I didn't cut any of the gray up, but I cut a couple of strips of the white earlier today. Okay, and then I'm going to get this out of the way. I would normally use this gun vise, but it's gonna obliterate what I'm doing. So I put down this black matte black finish here on the bench, so you can kind of get a contrast and see what's going on. Let me clean up a little bit. Okay, here's the gun. Most of the polishing is done. You can see, like right here, the where you feed the magazine tube with the bullets. The gate, the cartridge gate, is still got some old bluing on it from before. You don't have to take that off, but you can. And here's the parts that go with it. The butt plate, I've already got it shined up. I may touched up a little. I can see a little bit of darkness right there on the edge. I polished it last night and I missed a spot or two. And we've just got, the magazine tube end cap ready for patina. There's the original bluing that came with the gun. And I had this gun probably, I don't know, 12 or 14 years. Another part that goes between the barrel and the magazine tube, and we'll get that looking like color case hardened really easy. Another ring for the fore end and the barrel, and it's in pretty good shape, ready for patina. And I got a bunch of screws. I might not do all of this on video because that would make the video like way longer than you'd want to watch it. It would be like watching grass grow, and once you see how I do it, it's everything's the same. We could actually even polish this up. we could take this Scotch-Brite, polish this cartridge a little bit, get it clean, and in fact I will demonstrate that the stainless FX also works on brass, copper. Let me get a bigger piece here so I can get a hold of it. It works on brass, copper, bronze. Every metal that I've tried, it works on except aluminum. It doesn't do squat on aluminum. But just for fun, I got some cups here because I'm going to be doing more dipping than I am spraying. Well, hell. Let me do this. Let me spray this so you can tell that spraying is one method. So in the case of this shell, you take the surface prep, the orange liquid, and just get the surface wet. Doesn't have to be perfect. And take your do now is the dipping method, and we're going to take a little bit of this prep. It's odorless, but the fumes from the prep can cause a little rusting in areas that you don't want, so you want to keep it covered. If there's any areas on your gun that you want to definitely not have any rust encroachment, you might want to tape them off. And then this is the patina. You don't really have to shake it up, but I just did out of habit. Put the sprayer back on there. I couldn't put my hands on a fresh sponge today, so I brought a sponge from the lab sink, and I'm going to tear it. I'm just going to tear a little random chunk off, like so, and about like that. There's my hand and chunk. It doesn't have to be any certain size. And I'm going to tear off a few because I don't like to dip into the prep solution all with one sponge. Hold on, my cell phone's got an alarm going off. Sorry about that. Yeah, I just turned it off. So anyway, what we're going to do is just get this sponge, just a little bit of it, damp. You don't want it soaking wet, just damp. Because you don't have to soak the parts in this stuff, you just have to get it kind of damp. So I need to get a cameraman because it would be so cool if I could zoom in when I needed to. And then take, not the same sponge, don't use that same sponge in this or you'll ruin it. Take a little bit of this, and because the shape of the sponge is rough, it's going to leave kind of a rough pattern. So it's just a matter of how long you leave it in place, how hard you press, blah blah blah. And then when you get it like you like it, that's a little overdone actually, but you get it like you like it, you hit it with water or wipe it off with a clean sponge that's nothing but water. I'll put water in this. This is distilled water. It doesn't have to be, but I'd recommend it because other water is pretty nasty as far as minerals and stuff, and you might get little white specks from the chlorides and solids that are in city water or well water. I'm going to pump this up again in case I need it for rinsing. Should be good. Let me check it. Oh, yeah. Okay, so we've got our patina sponge. We've got, that's dry, so that's a water sponge. And we've got that. Now we're going to continue, and see, by the way, let me get this wet again. This won't rub off. It's not a paint. It's not, there's no pigments. It's just as bulletproof as a heat type color case hardening, where they use bone charcoal and bone meal and whatever else they throw in there. You can't rub it off. It'll wear, I mean, it's not like so deep into the steel that it'll last forever, but it will if you take care of it. So now we're going to dry this part off. Well, I was going to polish that a little bit. You take this. Found a spot that was a little dark. No, I can't. There it is. See the difference in the polish lines? This side's got some obvious striations from the abrasive disc I just did. That's going to take the patina a little bit different. I want to demonstrate that. So again, you don't want it dripping wet, just moist. Dab it on, and then dip your sponge, get it moist, dab it. Kind of got to be careful, because if you go too long, it'll turn almost solid color. But that's looking pretty good. So I'm going to hit that below my legs where you can't see it with a spray of water. Just a little mist of water neutralizes that, and that's all you got to do. Or you could take your wet sponge and do the same thing. But as you notice here, it's a little different look here where I just polished than it is anywhere else. And the edges I didn't get very good. It's okay though, because what you can do is go back with your surface prep and just dab, and then dab those edges. And you'll see they come right to life. I'm going to hold this where you can't see it, and I'm just going to spray a little water on it. Okay, surface prep on the edge. Probably dripping it all over the stuff below it too. And a little bit of the stainless. And bring the colors right into that edge. And hit it with a little water. This is really the way to go. I like this a lot better than the sponge. But depending on what you want to do, it's no big deal. Keep in mind that when if this starts to get really black looking and ugly, tear off and make little raindrop spurts. I don't want to get it everywhere, so I'm being a little careful here. And then I didn't bring any, well, here's some water. And just rinse that off with water, which I'm not going to do on the table. I'll have a big mess. Bigger mess than I already do. But you can see just with that little bit of effort, we've got a pretty interesting color case hardened look on that cartridge. We could do better, but still, that's pretty freaking cool. Now, if you were to put a little lacquer on that or just oil, it would look a lot more brilliant, and I can emulate that by just getting it wet. You're looking at more like this when it's sealed. or oiled. So just something to think about. Okay, what I'd like to do now is the dipping method, and we're going to take a little bit of this prep. It's odorless, but the fumes from the prep can cause a little rusting in areas that you don't want, so you want to keep it covered. If there's any areas on your gun that you want to definitely not have any rust encroachment, you might want to tape them off. And then this is the patina. You don't really have to shake it up, but I just did out of habit. Put the sprayer back on that. I couldn't put my hands on a fresh sponge today, so I brought a sponge from the lab sink, and I'm going to tear it. I'm just going to tear a little random chunk off, like so, and about like that. There's my hand. There's the chunk. It doesn't have to be any certain size, and I'm going to tear off a few because I don't like to dip into the prep solution all with one sponge. Hold on, my cell phone's got an alarm going off. Sorry about that. Okay, I just turned it off. So anyway, what we're going to do is just get this sponge, just a little bit of it, damp. You don't want it soaking wet, just damp. Because you don't have to soak the parts in this stuff, you just have to get it kind of damp. So I need to get a cameraman because it would be so cool if I could zoom in when I needed to. And then take, not the same sponge, don't use that same sponge in this, so you'll ruin it. Take a little bit of this, and because the shape of the sponge is rough, it's going to leave kind of a rough pattern. So it's just a matter of how long you leave it in place, how hard you press, blah blah blah. And then when you get it like you like it, that's a little overdone actually, but you get it like you like it, you hit it with water or wipe it off with a clean sponge that's nothing but water. I'll put water in this. This is distilled water. It doesn't have to be, but I'd recommend it because other water is pretty nasty as far as minerals and stuff, and you might get little white specks from the chlorides and solids that are in city water or well water. I'm going to pump this up again in case I need it for rinsing. Should be good. Let me check it. Oh yeah. Okay, so we've got our patina sponge. We've got, that's dry, so that's a water sponge, and we've got that. Now we're going to continue and see. By the way, let me get this wet again. This won't rub off. It's not a paint. It's not. There's no pigments. It's just as bulletproof as a heat type color case hardening, where they use bone charcoal and bone meal and whatever else they throw in there. You can't rub it off. It'll wear, I mean, it's not like so deep into the steel that it'll last forever, but it will if you take care of it. So now we're gonna dry this part off. Well, I was going to polish that a little bit. Let me take this. Found a spot that was a little dark. And now I can't, oh, here it is. See the difference in the polish lines? This side's got some obvious striations from the abrasive disc I just did. That's going to take the patina a little bit different. I want to demonstrate that. So again, you don't want it dripping wet, just moist. Dab it on, and then dip your sponge, get it moist, dab it. You kind of got to be careful, because if you go too long, it'll turn almost solid color. But that's looking pretty good. So I'm going to hit that below my legs where you can't see it with a spray of water. Just a little mist of water neutralizes that, and that's all you got to do. Or you could take your wet sponge and do the same thing. But as you notice here, it's a little different look here where I just polished than it is anywhere else. And the edges I didn't get very good. It's okay though, because what you can do is go back with your surface prep and just dab, and then dab those edges. And you'll see they come right to life. I'm going to hold this where you can't see it, and I'm just going to spray a little water on it. Okay, surface prep on the edge. Probably dripping it all over the stuff below it too. And a little bit of the stainless. And bring the colors right into that edge. And hit it with a little water. This is really the way to go. I like this a lot better than a sponge. But depending on what you want to do, it's no big deal. Keep in mind that if this starts to get really black looking and ugly, tear off a new piece and start with a new piece. Okay, so there's what we've got on that butt plate. And the edges are done. I got an overhead camera, I got to check. I don't even know what's in them, and they're going to leave an oily residue, and you don't want that. So we're going to take like a main area, and I was going to mask off some of this stuff, but it's okay. So we're going to do a main area, then I'm just going to cut the video and finish it up, and then show you the before and after. Oh, crap, let me zoom in on that. Hold on. Gotta get the camera back. Put it right here. Put down. Where you can see nothing but that receiver. And we'll get a good close shot on that. I can do some of this in editing, but this is going to be a little easier to understand. Okay, you ready? Okay, here is my sponge with the prep. You don't want it dripping wet, you just want it moist, okay? You don't have to get it dripping wet. And then put that back in there, and then get your, I hate it when that happens. Okay, I'm going to cut a new sponge for the patina. Again, it's too wet. You don't want it dripping wet, you just want it moist. Place it, touch it. You don't want to slide it around, you just want to use the sponge. The sponge is hitting it with more pressure in spots because of the shape of it. You know, the texture of the sponge. So, water. No haters, please, on using water on a gun. Guns are made to get wet. Water won't hurt steel as long as the steel is protected from oxygen, heat, and moisture. You get it dried out, you oil it, you're fine. To me, guns are tools, not jewels. Okay, then you got some color there. It's pretty dang cool. Now, I'm going to get it wet again to piss off all the haters. And this is a lot of what it looks like. Well, it's got a lot of beads on it, so, but you can tell that when you oil it, it's going to be really, really pretty. Okay, that's all I'm going to do for now. I'm going to finish it up using the same process the whole way through. And then when I get done, I'm going to video putting on a semi-gloss 2-part clear. Because I did spray it, I'm going to force out moisture. But I will not oil this gun, even, you know, now that I got it wet and I got it dry, and people are going to just be going ape shit over that. I will not oil this gun at all, ever, anywhere, until I'm completely done. Because it's just going to cause problems for repelling the patina. The patina is water-based, and it doesn't get along with oil. So, bye for now, and I'll be back with the whole gun, the before and after. Might even do a little bit more patina work. But here's the polished, ready for patina side. My name is Bill Worden. I not only guarantee great products, I guarantee great service. You have my word on it. Thanks for watching.